One day, there was a girl named Akitsu. She had just finished her work, was very tired, and was barely walking. Suddenly, as soon as she entered the house, she collapsed to the ground, unable to move, crying, and dying. At that moment, another person appeared and asked if she wanted him to intervene. She asked how he would do that, and he explained that there was a world called Astalin where humans killed all other races. He wanted to resurrect her in that world so she could decide for herself if the right thing was to exterminate humans or not. Akitsu got scared and told him she wouldn't be able to help. He reassured her that he would grant her a special power. Akitsu felt better, and he told her there were many types of powers like teleportation and combat abilities. Akitsu got excited and accepted the offer. The person sent her to the new world and thanked her for her help. Akitsu woke up in the new world as an infant, crying intensely. We see a group of people around her, waiting for her to wake up. Akitsu was still confused and didn't understand her situation. We learn that these people are her new family. Her mother, Nefertima, cries as her father holds her, both overjoyed. We find out that Nefertima's continent is Larshia, the largest of the 3 continents and home to the kingdom of Gashi. Nefertima was reborn as the 3rd daughter of the royal duke's family, Osfi. We see Nefertima at 3 years old, with her family happy with her. Her older brother Ralph gives her flowers, and her older sister Karna also gives her fireworks with her magic. Nefertima is very happy with her family, running and playing around them, but she bumps into a rock and is about to fall when her fluffy friend saves her from falling. Nefertima shares that her life now consists of eating, sleeping, getting pampered by her family, and playing with fluffy animals. She's very happy in her new life. Her mother tells Nefertima that she'll be going to the royal palace for important work, but unfortunately, she can't take her fluffy friend because animals aren't allowed inside. Nefertima is very excited to go with her mother. Her mother tells her to be a good, gentle girl while they're there and takes her along. Nefertima is overjoyed to finally leave the house. Her mother casts a protection spell on Nefertima as she leaves her alone in the room for a while, asking her to be obedient until she returns. During this time, Nefertima feels bored and looks out the window, seeing birds flying in the garden. She climbs out the window into the garden, chasing after the bird and calling for it to wait for her. At that moment, all the cute animals in the garden appear. Nefertima is very happy and plays with them, loving the royal palace because of the adorable animals. But then all the animals suddenly run away when a huge tiger emerges from the trees. The tiger likes Nefertima and plays with her. Nefertima is very happy, hugging the fluffy, beautiful tiger. The tiger lets Nefertima ride on its back, walking her through the beautiful garden. Nefertima is ecstatic until the tiger returns to its owner. The owner calls out, asking what's on its back. He's surprised that Lars let Nefertima ride him, considering he's still a beast. The boy takes Nefertima off Lars, making her upset, and she asks to be put down, but he ignores her. Lars takes her from him and gently puts her down. The boy is surprised that Lars likes someone else, which has never happened before. He asks Nefertima where her parents are. Nefertima tells him her mother works here. He asks her name, and she says, "My name is Nefertima Osfi, and I'm 3 years old." The boy puts her back on Lars's back and takes her back to the palace, with Nefertima amazed by its beauty. They enter the king's chamber, where the duke and king are working. The duke is surprised to see Nefertima there and picks her up, asking what she's doing here. The boy says Nefertima was lost, so he brought her. Nefertima says she wasn't lost. The boy says he saved her while she was playing with Lars in the garden. The duke asks Nefertima what happened. She explains that she came with her mother, then got bored and found Lars playing with him. We learn that the boy is the prince, and the duke thanks him for bringing Nefertima. Nefertima is shocked to find out the boy is the prince and the man with her father is the king. Nefertima introduces herself politely to the king, who asks if she likes Lars. She says they're friends. The king introduces himself as Galderos Gashi, the king of this land, and he's happy with her visit. We return to Nefertima's mother scolding her for wandering off and worrying her. Nefertima apologizes, and her mother asks if she really rode on Sky Tiger Lars. Nefertima says that Lars likes her and protects her, asking if she can visit him again. The king already invited her for another visit, so her mother agrees, but makes her promise not to visit Lars in front of people because he's a very special tiger with elemental powers. Her mother explains the situation and makes her promise not to visit Lars in front of others. Nefertima then goes to play with her fluffy friend. Her mother is amazed at how Sky Tiger Lars loves Nefertima. The duke suggests that this might be Nefertima's special power. The next day, Nefertima goes with her parents to her brother's school to see them. She's very happy to visit her brothers at school and looks for any rare animals there. Her mother tells her to stay close and not do what she did at the royal palace. The duke's family sits in their designated area to watch the training match at the school. Nefertima is amazed by the sight before her, as if they're not at a school. The duke explains that all this is due to the magic of many teachers at the school. Ralph steps up to start the match. We learn that it's like chess, but in real life to determine who the best leader is. The battle between Ralph's forces and his opponent's forces continues, ending with Ralph's army winning. Nefertima is very happy and runs to Ralph, telling him he's very strong. Nefertima goes to the bathroom and, on her way back, meets her brother with another boy. The boy tries to provoke Ralph. Nefertima tells him that Ralph is stronger and will never lose to him. The boy mocks Nefertima, making her angrier. She tells him she's better than a fool who doesn't know his place. The boy gets angry and is about to hit Nefertima when Ralph and the prince stop him. The prince scolds the boy for raising his hand against Nefertima. Ralph is surprised that the prince knows Nefertima and asks how. The prince says she was lost at the palace. Nefertima yells that she wasn't lost. The prince teases Nefertima, saying she can come to the palace whenever she wants. She's happy because she thinks she can play with Lars. The other boy objects, but the prince says the king likes Nefertima and has no problem with it. The prince is surprised that Nefertima likes the king and asks why she doesn't like him. She says because he's savage. The prince teases her again. Ralph tries to take Nefertima from the prince to avoid disrespecting him, but the prince tells him not to worry. He tells the boy, Tristan, that Nefertima is under his protection, and if he tries anything again, he'll punish him himself. The boy quickly runs away. The prince introduces himself to Nefertima as Will. Will goes with Nefertima and Ralph to the duke's seat, greeting the duke and duchess. They all sit together to watch Karna. Nefertima is amazed by the magical writing on the ground in front of Karna. Will explains that Karna's test is to use magic to defeat the monsters summoned by the magic circle. Karna starts summoning, and a giant red dragon appears, shocking and scaring the audience. Nefertima asks Will if that's a monster. Will says no, it's a great fire dragon. Nefertima realizes the creature is like Lars. Will asks the duke if Karna's magical element is fire. The duke replies that Karna is skilled with fire but not water. Everyone is worried about Karna, but Karna smiles and decides to face the dragon. Nefertima is very concerned and runs to the battlefield to help her sister. Everyone is worried about her. As she jumps from a great height, she's at risk of getting hurt, but an unknown power saves her. She runs towards the dragon, preventing the wizards from attacking and harming it. Everyone is amazed by Nefertima's action. Nefertima is shocked by the dragon's ability to speak. The dragon tells her that this place is not suitable for children. Nefertima responds that he shouldn't harm the knights either. The dragon explains that they brought him here by force and treated him aggressively from the start, which upset him greatly. Nefertima tells the dragon that fighting would cause him a lot of pain. She notices his shimmering skin and feels an urge to touch it. The dragon, surprised, asks if she really wants to touch him and if she's not afraid. Nefertima says no, and the dragon responds that she is indeed a strange girl. He moves closer and allows her to touch him. Nefertima laughs and asks if he feels better now. Everyone is amazed by what they see. The dragon tells Nefertima that when she grows up and needs him, he will recognize her as his mistress immediately. The dragon decides to return to his land, but Nefertima asks him to stay with her. He gives her a crystal ball through which she can contact him anytime, advising her to keep it with her always. The dragon informs her that she can change the crystal's form to anything she likes. Nefertima transforms the crystal into a bunny-shaped bag and wears it on her back. The dragon explains that the crystal will keep them mentally connected and she can use his power through it. Nefertima thanks the dragon and asks for his name. He tells her his name is Basil. Nefertima introduces herself and bids the dragon farewell as he flies back to his land. Everyone is worried about her. Karna cries out of concern for Nefertima. Will asks the duke to have the court mages investigate what just happened. He mentions that the palace authorities might want to take the crystal from Nefertima, but the duke thinks that anyone who upsets Nefertima would be dealt with severely. The duke and duchess go to the king's hall to meet him. The king apologizes for the sudden summons and tells them he wants to discuss the recent events at the academy regarding the fire dragon. He says he heard that Nefertima made a pact with the dragon and asks if it's true. Nefertima feels tense and the duke replies that it's not a formal contract yet. The king points out that Nefertima can use the dragon's power, right? The duke confirms that the dragon would help Nefertima if she wanted, but she hasn't received the great beast's blessing yet. The king asks if Nefertima would use the dragon's power to destroy the kingdom. The duke swears by his name that this will never happen. Nefertima understands the gravity of the situation and realizes that breaking her father's promise could cost him his life. At this moment, the director of the Magical Research Center asks for permission to speak, stating he had precautions in place to prevent the dragon's appearance. The king asks him to explain why the dragon appeared, and the director suggests it might have been caused by an extraordinary force. The high priest agrees with the director. Nefertima realizes these are the people the man who brought her to this world warned her about. Will notices Nefertima is bored and asks if she wants to play with Lars. The king permits her to go play while the meeting continues. The prince calls Lars, and they play together, making Nefertima very happy. Nefertima feeds Lars meat with her bare hands, making him very happy too. Everyone is amazed by Nefertima's ability to feed Lars with her bare hands. Nefertima finds her hands covered in Lars' saliva, so a maid gives her a towel and Nefertima thanks her. She falls asleep as soon as she leans against Lars' fluffy fur. The duke notices the nobles talking about Nefertima, amazed by her ability to sleep next to the great sky tiger. They agree that she needs to make a formal contract with the fire dragon quickly, as it would benefit the country a lot, especially in combat. At this moment, the head of internal affairs, Ulf, asks the duke about Nefertima's well-being being, noting that she doesn't possess magical power. The Duke admits he doesn't know yet. Ulf asks if the Sky Tiger is attached to her because of the dragon. The commander of the Royal Guard suggests assigning a personal guard to Nefertima as her life could be in danger at any moment. He offers the Duke help if needed. The Duke thanks him and says they don't know what the situation will be yet. The High Priest tells the Duke it would be a great honor to take care of Nefertima. The Duke refuses, knowing the priest's real intention is to turn Nefertima into their puppet. The priest gets angry and questions if Nefertima is really his daughter. The Duke is offended and asks what he means. The priest responds, saying he's heard rumors and that Nefertima doesn't resemble the Duke's other children. The Duchess interrupts and insults the priest, silencing him. However, the other nobles start expressing their opinions, wanting to control Nefertima under their watch. The Duke and his allies manage to silence these opportunistic nobles. After the meeting, Lars wakes Nefertima and her parents assure her everything is fine. The king tells her that from now on, she can go anywhere in the palace as she likes. Will tells her there are many animals in the palace she hasn't seen yet and that she will surely love them. They enter a room and wait for Nefertima's guard to arrive. When he does, he introduces himself as Gwen from the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Guard. Will asks Gwen to take Nefertima to the dragon stables. Gwen is shocked and scared but follows Will's orders and takes her to the stables with his troops, still unsure why Nefertima would want to go there. At the stables, they meet the stable master, who is very kind. Nefertima introduces herself, and the knight introduces himself as Dan, the Dragon Knight Commander. Dan shows her the dragons, both flying and running, and Nefertima is very happy. Dan notices Nefertima loves the dragons, calling them cute. This makes him happy too, and he agrees, saying they are cute. Nefertima wants to pet the dragons but is afraid to ask Dan, thinking he would refuse. She keeps thinking of a way to touch them until the dragon's power activates, and the other dragons notice the presence of the Great Fire Dragon. All the dragons in the area gather around Nefertima, making Dan worry about her safety and wanting to get her out. But Nefertima isn't afraid. She approaches a flying dragon, introduces herself, and plays with it. Gwen and Dan are amazed by what they see. Nefertima asks Dan if she can play with the dragon, and he allows it. She rides the dragon, and it flies into the sky, followed by other dragons on the ground. The flying dragon speaks to Nefertima, sensing the fire dragon's power in her. Nefertima tells him the fire dragon is her friend and gave her the crystal, telling her she can talk to all dragons through it. The dragon says their dragon clan will recognize her as their mistress. The dragon takes her to the dragon clan, and she plays with all the dragons, even their young. She falls asleep on the dragons swimming in the water, continuing to play in the water. Dan reveals that the dragon who made a pact with Nefertima is Giselle, the dragon clan leader. He tells Gwen that Giselle has a lot of pride and has never allowed anyone to ride him except Nefertima. Dan is bewildered, unable to understand what's happening. Gwen asks if Dan hasn't heard about the fire dragon incident, explaining that Nefertima is the girl who was there and became the mistress of the fire dragon, now possessing the crystal through which she can use the fire dragon's power. Dan is astonished, and Gwen admits he wasn't convinced until he saw it all with his own eyes. At that moment, Nefertima arrives, riding on Lars, followed by dragons in the sky and on the ground. Gwen is shocked and asks why Lars is there. Nefertima explains that he came to get her. Dan is amazed that all these powerful and great creatures are under Nefertima's command. Dan takes Nefertima on a tour to see all the animals, and then Captain of the Beast Knights, named Lys, arrives to show Nefertima all the creatures in the castle. He takes her to the stable of the beasts, and Nefertima is amazed at its size. When she sees the horses, Lys asks her if she would like to go for a ride, and Nefertima happily agrees. Lys whistles for his horse, which runs over, and Nefertima is very impressed by its appearance. Lys introduces her to the horse, whose name is Waz, the leader of the horse herd. But Waz is not friendly towards Nefertima, which surprises both her and Dan because it's the first time this has happened. Lys apologizes to Nefertima, saying that Waz can be a bit selfish at times, which makes Waz sulk. Nefertima pats Waz and tells Lys that Waz isn't selfish, but as the leader of the herd, it's natural for him not to let just anyone approach him. Waz and Nefertima become friends, and Lys apologizes to Waz. Lys and Nefertima ride another horse while Dan rides Waz, and they go on a tour of the beast stable. Nefertima sees many amazing creatures, but suddenly, baby boars run towards them, scaring Nefertima. Lys tells her that every year these baby boars cause trouble for the knights because they just want someone to play with. At that moment, Waz stands his ground and scares the boars away, and Nefertima thanks Waz. Lys is amazed at how quickly Nefertima formed a bond with Waz. Next, Lys shows her the waka birds, the fastest birds on earth used to send emergency messages. Nefertima wants to ride them, and Dan says he expected that from her. Lys explains that it's difficult because one needs to be very well trained to handle the speed of these birds. However, Lys agrees due to Nefertima's insistence. He rides the lead bird with her, asking her to hold on tight. Nefertima is filled with excitement as the bird speeds up, making the air feel suffocating. Lys uses wind magic to make it easier for her. After the ride, Nefertima feels very dizzy and swears never to ride the bird again. Dan laughs at her, making Nefertima yell at him. At that moment, a hawk flies by, and Lys whistles for it to land on his arm, showing it to Nefertima and explaining that they use it for message exchange. Lys sees the message the hawk is carrying and apologizes to Nefertima, saying he needs to leave quickly because one of his subordinates caused trouble. Nefertuma asks if she can come and play with the animals again, and Lys promises to take her on another tour as soon as he has time. Nefertuma asks Dan to take her back to the dragons. We then see Lys with his subordinates, asking how the white deer escaped. Lys tells them they need to come up with a quick plan and follow the rare deer with the dogs. Lys is surprised to see Nefertuma riding the escaped white deer, accompanied by Lars. He asks her how she managed to get the deer, and she explains that she was with the dragon herd when she saw the deer looking lost, so she brought it back. Lys thanks Nefertuma and feels a bit envious because he lacks the power that makes animals love her as they do. Nefertuma returns home, and her parents tell her they will grant her one wish for her birthday. Nefertuma thinks for a moment and says she wants to go to the city. Her father gets nervous and tells her the city is very dangerous, but her mother reassures him, saying she will be safe if someone accompanies her. Nefertuma says she will go with her sister Karna. The Duke still objects, saying it's too dangerous for them alone. The mother then suggests sending Paul with them to take care of them. The Duke agrees, and Nefertuma goes on her first shopping trip in the city with Karna and Paul. She is very happy, exploring the entire city. Nefertuma asks Karna to teach her how to spend money, and Karna teaches her everything. Nefertuma buys delicious food and enjoys it, sharing it with Paul, Dee, and Karna. Suddenly, she smells the delicious scent of baby sweets and rushes to buy a large quantity. Karna asks what she will do with all of it, and Nefertuma says she bought enough for everyone at home. Karna is very happy for her and then takes her to her favorite store. As soon as they enter, they encounter some of Karna's classmates from the academy who mock Nefertuma upon seeing her. Karna puts them in their place, defends her sister, and walks away with Nefertuma. They return home, and Nefertuma is delighted with the day. When she enters her parents' room, they surprise her with a birthday party with all the noble friends and the royal family present, wishing her a happy birthday. Nefertuma cries with joy because all her friends and family cared enough to give her such a wonderful birthday amidst their important tasks. She thanks them, and they continue the celebration. The king and queen give Nefertuma a gift, as does Will, who presents her with a beautiful bracelet. Her other friends also give her lovely gifts, making her very happy. After the party, Nefertuma returns to her room thrilled with the day, and names her little hawk Nox, becoming friends. The next morning, Nefertuma trains with Nox, encouraged by Lys and Dan, who are amazed at how quickly she adapts to Nox. Lys suggests that Nox fly a longer distance tomorrow, but Nefertuma hesitates and tells them she won't be able to come often because she has to start studying. Nefertuma returns home and begins her studies. Their servant, Magiker, introduces her to the tutor who will be teaching her from now on. The tutor, named Enli, introduces herself to Nefertuma, who is surprised by Enli's appearance and welcomes her. The servant goes to prepare tea. At this moment, the tutor becomes very strict and says the first thing they need to change is Nefertuma's way of speaking. Nefertuma says she only expressed happiness at meeting her. Enli asks if she calls her parents Papa and Mama, and when Nefertuma says yes, Enli hits her with a stick, calling it inappropriate. Nefertuma glares at her, and Enli asks why she is being looked at that way. The servant returns, and Enli's demeanor changes immediately. This marks the beginning of problems between Nefertuma and Enli. Nefertuma returns to her room exhausted, thinking that Enli couldn't possibly be teaching Ralph and Karna this poorly. She considers telling her father, knowing he would solve the problem, but fears he might kill Enli, so she decides to handle it herself. The next day, the family notices something strange about Nefertuma, thinking she might be ill. Her mother offers to call a doctor, but Nefertuma assures her she's fine and avoids telling her about Enli. Ralph catches her and says she must be thinking about what to say to their mother. Her mother arrives and asks what's wrong, guessing it's about Enli. Nefertuma says she can solve her own problems. Her mother offers to intervene, but Nefertuma says they would just fire Enli, and her mother agrees, suggesting that Nefertuma should outdo Enli in her own favorite area, etiquette. Nefertuma agrees to surpass her tutor, aided by Ralph's magic, which he uses to heal her whenever she feels exhausted. He also becomes her dance partner, encouraging her to succeed. After a year, Nefertuma excels in all her noble studies. She asks Paul for information about Enli, who provides the background gathered when she was first hired, but nothing suspicious is found. Nefertuma becomes suspicious when she learns Enli has relatives linked to the chief priests. Finally, after a year, Nefertuma faces Enli in a final challenge and wins, leading Enli to flee. Nefertuma tells her father about being hit by Enli, angering him. She insists on handling the problem herself, planning to learn from Enli but in her own way, eventually enjoying her studies. Later, the Duke informs Nefertuma they will go on an expedition to the northern region under their rule. Since his schedule is clear, he will take her along, making Nefertuma very happy. They head to the magic gate, which transports them instantly to the north, where the local agent welcomes them. Outside the castle, Nefertuma sees snow for the first time, filled with joy and wonder at its beauty. Nefertuma freezes from the cold, so the Duke uses magic to warm her, making her comfortable. He dresses her in suitable snow clothes, which look very cute on her. They continue their journey in a carriage, and Nefertuma enjoys it immensely. They arrive at the house where they will stay for the night, warmly welcomed by the hosts, and Nefertuma loves the food. The Duke tells Nefertuma they will enter the forest tomorrow to set up a camp for the nights to fight the monsters that have been killing people recently. He asks for her help by questioning the dragon Soul about these creatures. Nefertuma learns from Soul that there shouldn't shouldn't be monsters in that forest and that such goblins are supposed to be in the south, not the north. The Duke decides to head to the forest at dawn to solve the problem quickly. The next morning, Nefertima prepares to explore the forest and bids farewell to the friends at the lodge. The Duke instructs his group to be very cautious since they don't know when the monsters might appear. Nefertima asks Nox to scout the path from the sky and they set off on their adventure. While in the forest, one of the group members tells the Duke that he has hunted in this forest for a long time and has never seen monsters before. Nefertima is amazed by the depth of the vast forest they are in until they reach a spot where they can rest. The Duke tells them they will rest here for a while before continuing. Suddenly, the guards sense a strange movement among the trees and investigate, finding a small rabbit hiding behind a tree. Nefertima approaches the rabbit to check on it, but it gets scared and runs away, which shocks her since it's the first time any animal has been afraid of her, leaving her disappointed. She notices a blood spot where the rabbit was and realizes it's injured. She quickly runs into the forest to help it, causing her father, the Duke, and the guards to worry and follow her. Nefertima reaches the rabbit first and gently approaches it to avoid scaring it. The rabbit jumps into her arms without fear, and she realizes it was afraid of the guards, not her. As she starts to return to her father to treat the rabbit, she is suddenly captured by a net. When the guards reach the place where Nefertima was, they find that the monsters have taken her, leaving only her hat behind. Nefertima wakes up to find herself in a cave surrounded by numerous monsters. She realizes they are goblins and one approaches her, causing her to panic and beg them not to harm the rabbit. Nefertima is surprised that the goblin understands her and steps away from the rabbit. She notices that all the goblins look very sad and asks them why they kidnapped her and what they plan to do next. The goblins seem puzzled by her questions and take her to a room inside the cave. Meanwhile, the Duke and his group are trying to figure out who kidnapped Nefertima and where she was taken. The old man with them reveals that it was the goblins who kidnapped Nefertima, making the Duke very worried. Back with Nefertima and the goblins, she is taken to a room where she is shocked to see two young dragon siblings who were also kidnapped by the goblins. They ask Nefertima if she was kidnapped too, and she introduces herself to them. The boy's name is Pino and his younger sister's name is Nino. Nefertima asks them if the goblins only kidnapped them, but Pino explains that they also captured some adults and placed them elsewhere. Nefertima decides to talk to Sol and asks if it would be dangerous to use fire magic in an enclosed space like this. Sol is surprised by her question and asks what she has done this time. She tells him that the goblins kidnapped her and she's trapped in their cave, shocking Sol, who tells her she is truly a strange child. Nefertima explains that she wants to escape with others this time and asks if he can use his magic to teach the goblins a lesson. Sol explains that her plan won't work because she doesn't possess magical mana, so she decides to wait for her father to rescue her. At that moment, Nefertima's stomach growls with hunger, prompting Nino to comment on how someone could be hungry at a time like this. Embarrassed, Nefertima responds that humans can get hungry anytime. Nino's stomach growls too, and Nefertima teases her saying she is also hungry, followed by Pino. Nefertima gives them the rabbit and tells them to stay here while she looks for something to eat. They warn her of the danger, but she reassures them that she'll be fine and sneaks out of the room. Suddenly, she encounters a goblin and they both get scared. She apologizes to the goblin and asks if they have anything edible since they are hungry. The goblin gives her a fruit from his bag, and Nefertima tries it but finds it very bitter. The goblin peels it for her and tells her to eat it again. Nefertima is surprised by its sweet and delicious taste this time. She thinks the fruit will please Pino and Nino and asks the goblin for more, receiving the whole bag. Nefertima thanks him and wonders how to peel all the fruit, so she takes out her dagger and starts peeling. The goblins mimic her and are very happy with their success in copying Nefertima, becoming friends with her. Nefertima worries that her father will attack the goblins immediately upon finding her, so she asks them why they are here. The goblin tries to explain, but she doesn't understand his language. At that moment, a giant goblin appears, terrifying her. The giant goblin asks the others what the human girl is doing here. Nefertima is surprised that he can speak and tells him she has some questions. She asks if he is their leader, and he confirms. She asks why they kidnap children like her. The leader explains that it is in their nature to love children and that they believe they are protecting them by kidnapping them. Nefertima asks why they attack humans, and he simply replies for survival. Nefertima is shocked, and the goblin leader explains that the only reason they are here is because humans persecuted them, drove them out of the jungles, and relentlessly hunted them down, killing them without mercy. Nefertima is stunned to realize that humans are the villains in this story and that they have indeed wronged the other creatures, just as the man who brought her to this world told her. She decides to have her father investigate this matter thoroughly and continues to think about what to do with the goblins, as she cannot leave them alone. Nefertima asks the goblins if they plan to take revenge on humans. The leader tells her they just want to live their natural lives in peace. Nefertima thinks that if she can find a place where all these creatures can coexist, it will solve the problem. Meanwhile, Pino and Nino are worried about Nefertima and waiting for her. Nefertima returns and explains her plan to the leader to help them return to their normal lives, which the leader finds impressive. She tells him that the important thing now is to survive the day. The leader is confused, and Nefertima explains that her father is coming and he will be very angry at them for kidnapping her. He will kill them all without listening, but she assures him she has a plan for that too. Nefertima returns to Pino and Nino, who are eating the fruit. Pino tells Nino to eat slowly and with manners. Nefertima tells him to let her eat as much as she wants since they have plenty of fruit left. Nino thanks Nefertima and asks if they can leave now. Nefertima confirms, saying the goblins have no problems with it and that her father will be nearby so they can reach him easily. Pino is relieved they can go home, but Nino asks why they should escape if they can wait here. Nefertima explains that the goblins kidnapped them for a reason. They acknowledge and Nefertima tells them she wants to save the goblins, but her father will be furious and will kill them if he finds them here. Nefertima shares her plan to have her father talk to and listen to the goblins and asks for their help. Pino refuses, not wanting to endanger Nino, but Nino encourages him, saying Nefertima is younger than them and needs their help. They agree to assist her. Meanwhile, the Duke locates the goblins' lair and hears Nino and Nefertima escaping from the goblins. He finds the children without Nefertima and orders the guards to rescue them. The guards save the children, and the goblins flee, pursued by the guards. Nefertima's plan is working smoothly. The goblin leader emerges to face the guards, but the Duke attacks him furiously with fire magic, demanding the return of Nefertima as it is her bedtime. Nefertima fears for the goblins when she sees her father so angry. The Duke launches a powerful fireball at the leader, but Nefertima blocks it with dragon fire magic. The Duke calls out to her, knowing she is there, and demands she comes out quickly. Nefertima tells him not to be angry or use magic, and he agrees. Nefertima steps out and apologizes to her father. He tells her to come quickly to reassure him. Nefertima runs to hug him, feeling happy. The Duke signals the knights to attack the leader, but Nefertima blocks the attack with fire magic. She runs to defend the leader, and her father asks why she is protecting them. Nefertima explains that the goblins were persecuted and driven away by humans and had no choice but to come here. She asks her father to listen to them first. He agrees, and Nefertima checks on Pino and Nino, who assure her they are fine. Nino comments on how scary Nefertima's father is when he is angry. At that moment, Nox signals to Nefertima that danger is approaching and a giant spider monster appears. The Duke is shocked by the presence of the frost spider in the area and calls Nefertima to his side. At that moment, Nefertima senses that the spider is feeling fear and hunger. The goblin leader steps forward to confront the spider, and as Nefertima is about to join, her father stops her, saying it's their battle. The spider attacks the goblin fiercely, but he dodges and counterattacks with all his strength. The battle between them rages on until the goblin defeats the spider with sheer ferocity. However, just as the goblin steps away, the spider attacks him again, nearly finishing him off. Everyone thinks the spider has defeated the goblin, but he lifts the spider off him and throws it away. He thanks Nefertima, saying that without the magical barrier she placed on him, he would have died earlier. Nefertima still senses the spider's fear and helplessness. The spirits make Nefertima hear the spider asking for help and protection for her child. Nefertima is shocked when a small spider emerges from the larger one. She realizes the mother spider was pregnant and trying to protect her baby all this time. The mother spider dies, and Nefertima rushes to help, but it's too late. She cries bitterly over the spider, and her father tries to console her, though everyone is surprised that she's crying so much over a monster. After Nefertima calms down, everyone is surprised when the goblin leader transforms into a humanoid with horns. Nefertima and the others are astonished, and the Duke explains that he has evolved. Nefertima asks if he is the goblin leader, and though he's unsure of what happened, he confirms it. Nefertima decides to ask Sol for information about this situation. Sol is surprised that the goblin evolved since he was already at the known highest stage. Nefertima explains that he now looks human and has horns, and Sol mentions that the Oni have similar appearances and also have horns. He says he wants to see him, so he'll visit the next day. The Duke asks Nefertima what the dragon said, and she replies that the dragon wants to see him, so he's coming tomorrow. Nefertima thanks the goblin leader for saving them from the spider. The small spider approaches, and Nefertima asks if she wants to come with them or stay in the forest where her mother lived. The spider decides to go with Nefertima, who is very happy and names her Grazia. At that moment, Grazia's forehead glows, showing a strange mark. Nefertima wonders if she did something wrong again. In the morning, everyone wakes up, and Nefertima asks the goblin leader if he will free the adult humans now. Nefertima is happy when Pino and Nino arrive, hungry, and they all go to eat. The guard assures her that he healed the injured rabbit with magic, and she thanks him, feeling very happy. Nefertima asks her father if she can take the rabbit as a pet, but he explains that the rabbit belongs in the wild and would become weak if taken away. She leaves the rabbit behind after saying goodbye. Nefertima remembers the small spider and shows her to her father, who is shocked, saying it's not a pet but a powerful and rare monster due to its black color. The goblin leader explains the difference between monsters and animals and tells Nefertima that names give them power. When she asks his name, he says he doesn't have one, and Nefertima is surprised that someone so strong doesn't have a name. The leader admits he's envious of the spider for having a mark, indicating it has a name. The father is shocked, and Nefertima innocently says the spider's name is Grazia. Realizing her mistake, her father scolds her, but she she insists she didn't mean any harm. The father says they have no choice but to take her with them. Nefertima is delighted, and the guard informs the father that they are ready to leave. The Duke orders them to move out, and Nefertima asks Sol to place a protective spell on the goblin nest until their leader returns, since he's coming with them now. The goblin leader orders his goblins to stay in the cave until he gets back, and they return to the village. Nefertima asks Pino and Nino where they live, and Pino says they live near here in Count Eriga's territory. The Duke asks if they are the Count's children, and they confirm. The Duke assures them he'll get them home safely, and Nefertima bids them farewell before they head home. Sol arrives, and Nefertima happily clings to him, glad she can touch his skin again. Sol is intrigued by the goblin leader, noting he's different from any Oni he's seen, and that he possesses elemental power, unlike the Oni, who have no magical abilities. Sol tells her that the goblin leader is not an Oni and has elemental powers like the great beasts such as Lars. Nefertima asks the goblin if he can see spirits, and he confirms seeing the little glowing insects. She asks if he can use elemental power, and he says he can if he learns how. Sol offers to teach him some things. Nefertima looks for a target for the goblin to practice on, and the guard creates a training dummy from the earth. She thanks him and asks the goblin to practice. He successfully uses all the elemental powers, destroying the dummy with impressive strength. Nefertima tells him that his power will be useful for their plan. The Duke is curious and asks what plan, and Nefertima nervously realizes she hasn't told her father about it yet. She explains she discovered a way for humans and monsters to live in peace and asks for his help. The Duke agrees, and Nefertima tells the goblin that he's a new being now and names him Shinki. Shinki's head glows as he accepts his name, and Nefertima's father gets angry, but she insists she didn't mean any harm. Nefertima apologizes to Shinki for naming him without asking, but he reassures her that he would have asked her to name him anyway since she guided and helped them survive. He pledges loyalty to her along with his goblin tribe. Next, we see Nefertima explaining her plan to her father. She tells him that the main problem for the monsters now is that they've been driven out of their habitats. The solution, then, is to create new habitats for them by building a magical barrier on a mountain far from human settlements. This barrier would create caves for the monsters to live in, and if the number of monsters exceeds the capacity, they could turn the place into a training ground for the Adventurers Guild. Additionally, they can cover the project's expenses by building inns and shops at the mountain's base. This way, both adventurers and monsters can monitor each other. Nefertima then asks her father's opinion on her plan. The Duke responds that this would expose humans to danger from the monsters. Nefertima counters that this is necessary for human survival, and they would inform the adventurers about the area. Her father says the idea is very simple but agrees to think about it. Nefertima thanks her father and thinks she needs to explore some places to implement her plan. Her father informs her that they will head to a new destination for exploration and requests that Shinki join them. Shinki is surprised, but the father explains that Shinki's magical power and knowledge of monsters will be very useful. Shinki agrees to go but is worried about leaving the nest unguarded for too long. Nefertima realizes that she can't maintain the barrier around the goblin nest indefinitely, which is a real problem. Shinki suggests having the spirits guard the nest while he's away and asks Nefertima to name the second strongest goblin after him to protect the goblins and the nest in his absence. Nefertima is surprised that Shinki asked her to do this and asks why. He explains that since she named him and he is the goblin leader, she is the mistress of all goblins. Nefertima thinks of Shinki as a friend and is embarrassed by his calling her mistress. She asks him to call her Miss instead, to which Shinki agrees. They go to the goblin nest, and Shinki presents the second strongest goblin. Nefertima is surprised by the goblin's ability to speak. Shinki explains that this goblin is his right hand and will evolve soon after a few more hunts. Nefertima decides to give her a beautiful name and asks what name she would like. The goblin points to a flower, and Nefertima names her Suzuko. At that moment, another goblin runs in, asking Shinki to have Nefertima name him. Suzuko says he is too weak to be named. Nefertima asks Shinki why he wants to be named, and Shinki explains that his old tribe was wiped out and he wants to become strong to protect his current tribe. Nefertima thinks and tells him she will name him, but he must promise to become strong and hunt a giant monster before they return. The goblin agrees enthusiastically, and Nefertima names him Toki. Toki is thrilled and thanks her. On their way home, Nefertima tells Shinki about her story with Sol and how they became friends. Shinki observes that she is surrounded by many people and creatures. Nefertima responds that she has her father, mother, older brother, older sister, and everyone in the castle and kingdom, and she loves them all. Shinki says he also had a brother who died fighting humans. Nefertima comforts him and tells him he is now part of her circle of friends, which makes Shinki happy and thankful. Next, we see them with the Duke and guards traveling by carriage to the town of Cass at the Barzit agency. The Duke informs them that the journey will take a long time and asks Shinki to guide them. Shinki agrees, and the Duke says he is gathering information about the monsters in the area and asks Shinki about the route they took while escaping. Shinki explains the route to the Duke, who identifies it on the map. The Duke deduces the types of monsters in the area based on the route and suspects that someone is deliberately gathering the monsters there, but needs more information to confirm it. The Duke informs Nefertima that after finishing the investigation in Cass, he will return to the royal capital. Nefertima is surprised and and asks why. He tells her not to worry, she will not return with him. He has asked her brother Ralph to take over since he will be the next duke. Nefertima is happy and is informed by the duke that she will meet Ralph in Cass. They arrive in the town and are warmly welcomed by the townspeople. Nefertima wants to see the Adventurers Guild in town, so she takes Shinki with her. Nefertima and Shinki arrive at the guild, and Nefertima is amazed that it looks more like an employment agency rather than a chaotic place full of adventurers. The receptionist greets them and asks how she can help, looking surprised when she sees Shinki's monster-like appearance. Nefertima is worried the receptionist might discover that Shinki is a monster, but the receptionist is excited to meet Shinki as it's rare to see a human-monster hybrid in the area. Nefertima relaxes, and Shinki tells the receptionist that he is accompanying his mistress. The receptionist is surprised that Nefertima, still a child, is Shinki's mistress. Nefertima explains that she came to see how the guild operates. The receptionist asks if there are no guilds in her hometown. Nefertima replies that the guild hall in the royal capital is too far from her residence, so she can't go there. The receptionist offers to give her a tour and introduces herself as Bibel. Nefertima introduces herself and Shinki. Bibel shows her the guild's reception booths, which are designed to ensure no one can overhear the conversations between the two parties using a soundproofing spell. Nefertima is impressed, and Bibel explains that the guild is very strict in its management and against any misconduct. Suddenly, they hear a man shouting, so the guild is just going to ignore this blatant injustice? How can the bounty for hunting a group of goblins be 3 times the usual amount? The governor must be exploiting his position to make money for himself. Another man nervously replies, the governor must be acting in the town's best interest. The first man shouts back, what are you talking about? He's pocketing the compensation meant for the victims of the monsters. How is that in the town's best interest? Nefertima is curious about this conversation and asks Bibel about the shouting man. Bibel tells her that his name is Hilran, one of the town's leaders, and he's very competent but always has problems with the governor. Nefertima asks if the guild can do anything about the situation. Bibel explains that most guild workers are commoners, so when they hear it's for the town's benefit, they don't know how to act. Bibel explains that Hilran used to work at the castle, so he doesn't tolerate the governor's mistakes and always confronts him. Nefertima decides to intervene and asks Hilran to tell her more about his problem. Hilran dismisses her, saying he doesn't have time for children. Nefertima introduces herself as the duke's daughter and offers to relay his issue to her father, who can solve it. Everyone is shocked to learn that Nefertima is the duke's daughter. Hilran, Bibel, and Nefertima sit down, and Hilran apologizes to Nefertima for his rudeness. He introduces himself as the town's accountant and explains the situation with the governor. Hilran explains that there has been an unusual increase in monster attacks recently. Despite this, the town of Cass hasn't been significantly affected this past year, even with several injuries. However, the governor exaggerated the situation and submitted false reports of deaths to claim compensations for himself. Nefertima understands that the governor is embezzling the kingdom's funds and is very corrupt. She asks Hilran if he reported the knights about the governor's actions. Hilran says he requested the knights to deal with the goblins, but they responded that certain reasons prevented them from coming. Nefertima is puzzled and wonders what those reasons might be. She asks Hilran if he has any evidence against the governor. Hilran says he saw the governor recording in a private file. Nefertima thinks to herself that if there is evidence, she should leave the matter to her father. Nefertima asks Hilran about the reasons why the knights didn't come, and he tells her that because Lini City, the largest city in the Barzit area to the west of their country, is experiencing numerous attacks from kobolds who are also looting essential resources. Therefore, the knights are there to eliminate the kobolds. Nefertima gets very excited because now she can include kobolds in her new project plan. She then tells Hilran that he needs to meet her father to explain everything, and she asks Shinki to gather the remaining goblins in the area to join his tribe. She calls for Nox, gives him a message to deliver to her father immediately, and sends him off, telling him to have her father meet them at the governor's house. Bibel asks if they are going to the governor's house and offers to help them get there. Nefertima thanks her, and they set off. In the evening, Nefertima, Bibel, and Hilran go to the governor's house. On the way, Nefertima asks Bibel how long the governor has been in office, and Bibel tells her it has been about 15 years. Nefertima then says that he has been embezzling the kingdom's funds for a long time. Hilran responds that the governor has been embezzling for the past 5 years. Bibel is surprised to learn that Hilran knew this information because he has only been in the town for 3 years. He explains that he discovered it by reviewing old records. They arrive at the mansion and find the duke and his guards waiting for them at the governor's door. Nefertima sees that the duke is very upset with her for wandering around the town without his knowledge, as it is very dangerous for her. Nefertima gets nervous and apologizes to her father for worrying him, explaining that she only wanted to see the Adventurers Guild. Her father asks about Shinki, and she tells him that she sent him to meet the goblins causing trouble. However, the duke is still very upset with Nefertima for making him worry so much. Nefertima knows she was wrong and is about to cry because he is angry with her, but Ralph comes and says that no one, including their father, is allowed to make Nefertima cry and he picks her up. Nefertima is happy to have her brother with her. The father then asks Ralph why he arrived so early, and everyone is surprised when Will and Lars also arrive with Ralph. The Duke asks Will what he is doing here, and Will explains that he finished his tasks and came to play with Nefertima when he heard she was here. The Duke asks if the king knows he is here, and Will responds that the king knows and even let him bring the guards with him. The Duke agrees but tells him he must return as soon as the king calls for him. The Duke then asks Nefertima about Hilren and Bibel, and she tells him that Hilren is the town's accountant and Bibel is in charge of the guild. She informs him that Hilren wants to speak to him about the governor's embezzlement of the kingdom's funds. The Duke is astonished and tells him to come inside to discuss it further. They knock on the governor's door and he welcomes them in. They talk about the embezzlement cases and the Duke orders the governor to be arrested. Then the Duke thanks the knights, Hilren, and Bibel, saying that all this injustice was uncovered thanks to their collective efforts. The Duke offers Hilren a job at the palace, but Hilren declines as he doesn't plan to return to palace work. Nefertima tells him to come work for her instead, and she asks Bibel too. Hilren and Bibel are astonished, and the Duke explains that Nefertima has an important plan, but sharing information about it could endanger their lives. He makes them swear to keep the information he is about to share secret. Everyone in the room, including Prince Will, swears secrecy, and then the Duke explains the plan. Will says he understands that establishing a settlement for all the monsters is a good and interesting idea. The Duke tells them that Ralph will complete the tasks since he will be the next Duke of the kingdom. Ralph says he will be very happy to complete all these tasks as long as he can spend more time with Nefertima. The Duke tells Will that as a prince, he also has duties to fulfill. Will assures him he will never neglect his duties and that he brought all his tasks with him and will help with the plan as needed. Hilren and Bibel agree to work with them, and Nox arrives at that moment. Shinki comes in through the door, and Nefertima asks him how it went with the goblins in the area. Shinki tells her he made arrangements with all the employees and sent them to the goblins' cave. Ralph asks who this is, and Nefertima explains that Shinki was the goblin leader and has since evolved into a mysterious creature. Ralph is shocked and asks how a monster can be near Nefertima. The Duke explains the situation and tells him to consider Shinki as Nefertima's personal guard. Nefertima asks Shinki for details about what happened, and Shinki says there were 16 goblins led by an ogre, and he tried to talk to them but it was useless, so he fought them and forced them to join their main nest. Nefertima is relieved that the goblin problem is solved and asks the Duke if he has any information about the kobolds in Linnies. He replies that there are reports of a large group of kobolds attacking a trade caravan on the road. Nefertima asks the guard captain if he has any information, stating that he surely knows the truth, which must be worse than what her father knows. The knight captain explains that there are more than 100 kobolds divided into 5 groups, each with a specific role like guarding, scouting, and other areas, and their overall leader is a high-ranking lycanthrope. The Duke is astonished by the information about their leader and asks how they learned this. The knight captain says they requested help from the Adventurers Guild, who gathered the information, and that they will soon go to the neighboring town to deal with the monster problem. Nefertima asks who is responsible for this mission, and the Duke says that someone surely doesn't want this information to reach the capital. The knight captain informs them that the current leader of the region used to work at the headquarters. Bibel says she will try to get more information about the regional leader through her guild, and the Duke thanks her but tells her they will still be in danger because they don't know the enemy's location yet. Will asks if the Duke suspects there is a spy among them, and the Duke says he suspects this to a large extent. Nefertima shows her concern at this moment, but Ralph reassures her that their father surely has a solution for all of this. Nefertima is reassured, and the Duke informs them that he will return to the capital and Ralph will continue the investigation in his place. The Duke asks the knights to assist Ralph in his mission. Nefertima goes to take her nap and takes Lars with her to sleep on his fluffy soft fur. She takes out the small spider, who is anxious about Lars, but Nefertima reassures her and makes them friends, and the spider also sleeps on Lars. The next morning, the friends head to their new destination, Linny's town. They review their plan again on the way, and Will says they need to give Nefertima's plan a new name and decides to call it Project Sharana. We see the Duke returning home, and Karna argues with him for leaving Nefertima there and coming back alone. He reassures her that Ralph is with her, and she is fine now. Karna shouts that Nefertima is still young, only 5 years old, and that it is still dangerous for her. The Duke tells her not to worry, as Lars, the Great Dragon, the Knights, and the entire entourage are with her. The mother asks the Duke what Nefertima is planning this time. The Duke tells them everything that happened and about Nefertima's plan. The mother says that their daughter wants to create a village for all the monsters to live in, and the Duke responds, yes, exactly. The mother says she will start gathering all the supplies Nefertima might need for her village and will also reach out to some guilds and present the idea to them. Karna keeps thinking about what she should do to help them and asks her father if she can go to see Nefertima. The Duke agrees but says that none of the guards are available to go with her now. The mother suggests suggests sending her with a group of adventurers as personal guards, and they agree on that. We see Nefertima as she nears the borders of Linny's, thinking about who the kobolds are now. Ralph tells Nefertima to be very careful with her actions there to avoid getting into trouble. They arrive at the town gate, and the knight captain goes to the town guards, shows them Prince Will's dagger, and tells them that Will is in the carriage with the Duke's children. The guard informs the town leader and allows them to enter. Will gets down to meet the town leader, and Ralph joins him, leaving Nefertima in the carriage. Nefertima asks the spirits to let her hear Will and Ralph's conversation with the town leader. The town leader warns them about staying in the area because it's very dangerous now due to the loose kobolds. Ralph tells him they came on the Duke's orders and that his mission is to monitor the monster appearances on his behalf. The leader says he will take them to the agency head, and Will and Ralph return to the carriage to follow them. They reach the town leader, who looks very exhausted. Ralph asks if he hasn't been sleeping well, and the leader says they haven't slept for a while due to being busy dealing with the kobolds. Nefertima focuses on the room's bad decor, and the leader explains that the knights can't handle the kobold problem alone, so they contacted the Adventurers Guild and formed an extermination team to deal with the kobolds. Ralph asks when they will move out, and the leader says they will move as soon as the Red Halata team arrives. Will says he has heard that name before, and Nefertima is surprised that even Will knows about this adventurer group, indicating they are very powerful. She worries that their strength means they could wipe out the kobolds entirely, and she thinks she must reach the kobolds before the extermination team does. Nefertima asks the leader if she can tour the city for a bit. The leader is surprised by her request, and Ralph says that if they tour the city, they can give a better report to their father. Will adds that with the royal knights accompanying them, they will be safe on their quick tour. The leader agrees and allows them to explore. Nefertima and her friends tour the town and are amazed by the poverty and chaos. They then head to the slums, where the devastation is more apparent and the children look miserable, poor, and hungry. Nefertima hears an animal in pain and quickly runs with Shinki to the source of the sound, finding a group of children beating a small dog. Nefertima shouts at them, asking what they are doing. The boy says his father told him that dogs are their enemies, so what is the harm in hitting an enemy? Nefertima replies that his father meant kobolds are the enemies, not this poor dog, and she scolds the boy. The boy raises his hand to hit her, but the knights quickly restrain him, and Nefertima asks them to hand over the poor little dog to her. Nefertima takes the dog, who is in bad shape, and asks Ralph to heal it. He does, and the dog gets better and plays happily with Nefertima. She asks the dog where its mother is, and it points to the forest. Shinki tells her that this dog is a kobold. Will, Ralph, and Nefertima are shocked by Nefertima's incredible luck. Nefertima decides to take the dog to its mother in the forest. Will tells her it's dangerous, but she replies that with Lars, nothing will happen to them. Nefertima and the friends set off for the forest to search for the puppy's mother, but Nefertima gets very tired from the difficult and rough path. The puppy keeps guiding them toward its mother. Nefertima notices that the path becomes harder over time, and the puppy gets excited and asks Nefertima to walk faster. Nefertima tries to explain that it's difficult for her since she is still a child. Shinki carries her to give her a break, and Nefertima thanks him. At this moment, the guards sense a nearby monster, but it turns out to be a slime. Nefertima gets excited to touch it, and Shinki tells her that this slime is asking for their help to save its friend ahead. Nefertima asks Ralph for permission to help the slime, and Ralph agrees. They follow the slime and find a large slime with many smaller slimes trapped inside. The leader of the knights says this is a mother slime, and they have never seen one before. The mother slime wants to give birth to all the small slimes, but it would be dangerous in the cold weather since they need a warm place to live. Nefertima tells the mother slime not to give birth now because it would be dangerous. They discover that the mother slime can't move, and Shinki suggests that someone allows the slime to inhabit their body to prevent it from giving birth immediately. Nefertima is shocked and asks if this means the slime will eat the person it inhabits. The mother slime assures her it won't eat the host if it loves them. Nefertima gets nervous and asks who the slime won't eat if it inhabits their body. The slime replies it won't eat her specifically. Expecting this response, Nefertima asks if it can inhabit Shinki, but the slime refuses. They eventually agree that the slime will inhabit Nefertima's body, and it enters her immediately. Ralph checks on Nefertima, asking if she's okay, and she tells him she feels fine but aware of the slime inside her. Will asks what they should do with the remaining slime. Nefertima says the slime inside her tells her that the small slime will become the next mother slime, so they decide to take it with them. They continue their journey to the kobold village. After a long walk through the forest, Will asks Lars if he senses anything strange nearby. Nefertima speaks to Lars quietly, guiding them to the source of the strange power with the help of the spirits. They reach the heart of the forest and find a magical tree that protects the forest. Nefertima asks Lars if she can approach the tree, and she greets it, introducing herself. The tree responds, noting how unusual their group is, consisting of humans, monsters, and great beasts. The tree asks Nefertima who she really is, and she replies that she is the Duke's daughter but prefers to be called just Nefertima. The tree asks what she needs, and Nefertima explains that they are looking for the puppy's mother and asks about the kobold's hideout. The tree asks what she plans to do when she finds the kobold's hideout, and Nefertima says she wants to reunite the puppy with its mother. The tree explains it can't provide any information on that matter. Nefertima asks asks why, and the tree explains that humans have always hunted the kobolds, driving them into the forest where they died from their severe injuries. The tree decided to hide the kobolds to protect them from humans. Nefertima acknowledges the harm humans have caused the kobolds and apologizes. She explains that she only wants to reunite the puppy with its mother and discuss an important matter with the kobolds. The tree is intrigued, and Nefertima reveals she wants to create a place where kobolds and all creatures can live peacefully with humans. She informs the tree that the town's leader has sent a large team to eradicate the kobolds from the area. If the eradication team reaches the kobolds first, their lives and the lives of other forest creatures will be in great danger. The tree agrees that Nefertima is right and acknowledges it can't hide the kobolds forever. Nefertima asks the tree for permission to help the kobolds and requests guidance to their village. Trusting Nefertima, the tree directs them to the kobold village, and Nefertima thanks it. As they continue through the forest, Lars senses monsters around them, and even Nox warns them of a strange monster. At that moment, a giant insect attacks Nefertima, but Nox swiftly defeats it. Ralph identifies the giant insect as a dangerous creature called a mamushi. Shinki warns them that these insects are poisonous, so they need to be careful. Lars cuts the insect into pieces, and Shinki informs them that the insect is also edible. Shinki roasts the insect over a fire, making it look very appetizing. He distributes the food, and Shinki asks Nefertima if she wants to try it. Nefertima tastes it and finds it delicious, feeling very happy with the taste. She also gives some to the spider, and the rest enjoy the meal too. Nefertima asks Lars to catch more of these insects if he finds them again and instructs the knights to do the same. The knight leader asks why, and she explains she wants to present them as a gift to the kobold village. They continue catching all the insects they encounter in the forest, gathering a large quantity. They venture deep into the forest and are eventually confronted by a group of kobolds guarding the village. Nefertima tells them that the forest guardian tree allowed them to pass and that she wants to meet their leader. The kobolds are initially distrustful, but Nefertima tells them she has brought a significant gift. The kobolds take her to their leader, leading them to a village filled with kobolds. Nefertima is excited by the sight and wishes she could take all the puppies home. The leader asks Nefertima what she wants from them. Nefertima introduces herself and explains that she came to return the puppy, which she found in Linus, where children were beating it. The leader asks the puppy why it went there, and it explains that the other puppies left it behind. The leader gets angry and scolds them, and Nefertima presents the food as a gift. The knights distribute food to the entire village and return the little puppy to its mother. The leader tells Nefertima, "You've completed your mission here, so leave now." Nefertima responds, "Aren't you going to try this delicious food as well?" The leader replies that her name is Cecily and thanks her for their help, but explains that her people have suffered greatly at the hands of humans and she will never trust them again. Nefertima asks Cecily what happened to them. Cecily explains that many kobold clans were attacked simultaneously, resulting in significant losses. Nefertima realizes that what happened to the kobolds also happened to the goblins. Nefertima tells Cecily that she has something else to discuss besides returning the puppy to its mother. She warns her that the extermination squad is coming soon and that the area is no longer safe for them. Cecily replies that she already knows this information because the stars told her. Lily is surprised, and Cecily explains that she is a star reader and can interpret the stars by observing the sky. Cecily says they will fight the humans and tells Nefertima to return to her town quickly. Nefertima suggests an alternative to fighting, Project Sharana, a plan to help humans and monsters live together in peace. Cecily rejects the idea, explaining that all surviving kobold clans have united under her leadership and that she has no intention of trusting humans again. At that moment, Ralph calls out to Nefertima, telling her it's time to return to the city. Nefertima bids farewell to Cecily and promises to return the next day. As Nefertima leaves, the stars tell Cecily that Nefertima is the savior who will rescue them from their predicament. A senior member of the clan approaches Cecily and asks why the stars have made her so enthusiastic. Could this girl really be the savior? We see Nefertima back in the city when a message arrives from their father, informing them that Karna is coming soon. Nefertima grows anxious, thinking that chaos is inevitable now that all the siblings are gathering. Ralph informs her that there's also a local report from the leader of the town guard's assistant. Ralph asks Will what information he brought back and whether he got the permit he was waiting for. Will replies that he received authorization to conduct an executive tour and that all knights, regardless of rank, are under his command. Will also tells them that the king has ordered an inspection of the royal knights and granted him the authority to arrest any violators. Will explains that the king has given them the power to deal with any knight who obstructs their path. They then speculate about what Hilarion has been doing in his investigation. Using spirits to locate Hilarion, they discover he is hiding in an old inn. Ralph, still confused about Hilarion's situation, asks for clarification. Will replies that he only knows what the stars told him and that Hilarion doesn't seem to need any help. Nefertima announces she's heading going to the forest again, and indeed, she goes back to the kobold village bringing more food. Cecily greets her, surprised, saying, "You came back." Cecily is even more astonished to see the monsters with Nefertima. She asks, "Why are all these creatures with you?" Nefertima explains, "They all needed help, and that's why they're with me." Cecily ponders this and says, "The fact that all these creatures trust you makes me reconsider trusting you myself. Are they part of the project you mentioned?" Nefertima answers, "I know it's hard for you to trust humans after all the harm they've done, but I genuinely want to help you." At that moment, the stars confirm to Cecily that Nefertima truly is the savior. However, Cecily hesitates and explains that her priority is to protect the clan and her younger sister. Surprised, Nefertima asks, "You have a younger sister?" Cecily reveals that her entire lineage was wiped out except for her and her sister. Cecily begins to cry, and Nefertima offers her the slime, whose texture soothes Cecily. Touched by its calming effect, Cecily enjoys the slime's soft texture. She then asks Nefertima if her project can really save the entire clan. Nefertima promises to try her best to save everyone, even though it's difficult. Cecily agrees and asks to hear the plan. Nefertima explains that she is gathering all monsters who have lost their homes and relocating them to a safe place to live. Cecily, still surprised that a human is trying to save monsters, remarks, "It's astonishing that a human is leading this effort." Nefertima replies, "Race or clan doesn't matter. What matters is helping those in need." Cecily leaves to gather the other clan leaders. Nefertima is overjoyed, saying, "Thank God, the plan is finally starting to succeed." At that moment, a dog from another breed approaches to thank her for saving the puppy. Nefertima marvels at the dog's fluffy fur and excitedly asks to touch it. The dog introduces himself as Hanley, a member of the healer family. Nefertima becomes thrilled to learn about the kobold clan and asks Hanley to tell her everything. Hanley begins by explaining their environment, saying the kobold breeds are divided into hunters and workers. The hunter breed excels in weapon use and physical abilities, while the worker breed is skilled in craftsmanship and everyday life tasks. He explains that normally each breed lives separately, but when the entire clan gathers, they support each other well. Nefertima asks why some kobolds walk on 4 legs while others walk on 2. Hanley explains that as kobolds grow, they develop the strength to walk on 2 legs, while the young ones are still too weak and move on all 4s. We see Nefertima dying to touch Hanley's fur. She finally hugs his soft coat, delighted by its smoothness. Cecily arrives and informs Nefertima that the leaders are waiting for her. They proceed to meet the clan elders. Nefertima explains her plan again, trying to convince them. This time, everyone agrees. Nefertima tells them they need to think of a way to avoid conflict with the humans and prevent annihilation. One of the clan leaders remarks that there's no time for evacuation now. They keep brainstorming solutions, but Nefertima suggests, "Why don't we confront them first and then escape afterward?" Cecily asks her, "What do you mean?" Nefertima explains that they could face Linny's forces with full strength, defeat them, and then flee afterward. The leaders respond that this plan is risky and could lead to many losses. At that moment, Cecily's sister enters and tells the leaders not to trust Nefertima because she must be deceiving them. Cecily yells at her, "What are you doing here?" The leaders are discussing important matters. Nefertima approaches the young girl and asks, "Why do you think we're trying to deceive you?" The girl replies, "Because all humans are the same, greedy and evil." To everyone's surprise, the leaders begin to doubt Nefertima again, suspecting she might have been deceiving them from the start with the food she's been bringing. Cecily shouts at them, "Do you even hear yourselves right now?" Nefertima tells the little girl, "I don't know who these evil humans you're talking about are, but I've never met anyone like that. We came here only to help you. If you have a better idea to save the clan, please share it." The girl goes silent and admits, "I don't know." Nefertima reassures her, "Everything will be okay." The girl then asks if there's anything that can help her sister. Cecily tells her sister that her new mission is to stay by Nefertima's side and protect her. The girl is overjoyed that Cecily gave her an important task. Nefertima is surprised to hear herself being called the savior and asks Cecily about it. Cecily explains that the stars said Nefertima is their savior. They then proceed to prepare the plan. Nefertima asks Ralph to infiltrate the extermination squad. Will questions why, and she explains that it would be better if they knew every move the squad makes. Also, Ralph's healing magic will make them deeply grateful to him. Ralph agrees, and everyone begins preparing for the plan. The carpenters start building the wagons they'll use to escape. The weavers and divers work on making ropes and nets, while the philosophers and farmers scout suitable paths for their plan. Afterward, Ralph, Will, and Nefertima return to the city. The knights disguise themselves and infiltrate the extermination squad to gather information. Will tells Nefertima and Ralph that they need to visit the knights' headquarters immediately. They go to the headquarters, where the commander welcomes them. Will asks him if he's the leader of the extermination squad. The commander confirms, "Yes, I'm the one leading them." Will requests to discuss something important, and they head to the hall. On the way, Nefertima spots Hilarion disguised as a guard at the headquarters and is shocked. She tells him to report to her later that night, then continues on her way. They meet with the commander, and Ralph asks to join the squad. The commander warns him it's very dangerous, but Ralph insists, saying it's an order from his father, the Duke. He reassures the commander that he'll stay in the rear lines, focusing only on healing the wounded. The commander is surprised to learn that Ralph can use healing magic and agrees to let him join, but only on the condition that his has 2 guards accompany him for protection. At that moment, the commander receives urgent news and excuses himself to leave quickly. Nefertima wonders aloud what's happening. Shinki tells them that a group of knights has been severely injured while trying to break up a fight between some adventurers. The group heads out to assess the situation and finds the knights gravely wounded. Ralph says the situation is dire and just 3 healers won't be able to handle it alone. He rushes to help them. Nefertima is shocked by the wounds and thinks this couldn't possibly be the result of an ordinary fight between adventurers. Will tells her that the injuries are from a ferocious beast. We see Ralph quickly using his magic to heal all the knights. Will then asks the knights what caused all this trouble. One knight replies that the cause of it all is at the bottom of Demas, and one of them is a beast master. Will realizes that there are escaped criminals and now posing as adventurers. Later that evening, Nefertima goes to Will's room to hear the report from Hilarion. She enters the room, checks on Will, and asks him why he's working with the knights. Hilarion explains that while investigating the ties between the adventurers and the knights, he was interrogated by the knights during that time but managed to escape using his wits. Afterward, he secured a desk job at the knights' headquarters to better investigate the situation. He tells them he discovered that the local commander is a shady individual who was stealing relief supplies, embezzling royal funds, and accepting bribes from adventurers. Will asks him if he has any proof of this. Hilarion replies that he's still tracking the money trail to gather solid evidence. Prince Will hands Hilarion his royal dagger to assist him in the investigation, as it will grant him access to all the locked doors in the kingdom. Nefertima tells him that once he finds material evidence, Will and Ralph will handle the matter immediately. Ralph then escorts Nefertima to her room to rest. The next morning, Will and his friends go to the Kobold tribe. Will tells them they need to understand that this battle is about relocating the clan to a safer place. He informs them that the extermination squad comprises 53 knights and healers, 28 mages, 10 mid-range fighters, 8 healers, and 12 scouts, totaling 92 combatants. Will then asks Nefertima if she wants to add anything. Nefertima tells them there will likely be many casualties as a result of this plan, so all participants need to prepare thoroughly for battle. We see Nefertima walking with Will and Shinki, visibly tense and anxious. Will tells her that as their leader, she cannot show worry or frustration in front of her forces. Nefertima is surprised at Will's level of caution and asks him if he always behaves this way. He replies that it's natural since he's the crown prince, and he must follow in his father's footsteps. He says he constantly wonders if he'll live up to expectations or fail the people. He explains that he never hesitates in his firm decisions because he thinks them through thoroughly before speaking. Nefertima reflects that she must rise to her responsibilities just like Will. At that moment, Ralph's report arrives via the spirits, and Will informs Nefertima that the adventurers who caused the previous conflict have been released. They include the Beast Master and another adventurer. Nefertima is shocked and asks why they were released. Will replies that it was done to strengthen the extermination squad. Nefertima realizes the situation is worsening and wonders what to do now that the plan is set to start the next day. We see Ralph saying goodbye to Nefertima and returning to the forces to gather more information. Nefertima plays with the young wolves, and a kobold tribe leader tells her the wolves are trying to cheer her up. The leader reassures Nefertima, saying it's natural to feel anxious and he would never blame her for it. He promises that they will all stand by her. Nefertima asks if he's afraid. He replies that he's lived so long he no longer fears death, but if he gives in to fear, he won't be able to protect his tribe. He adds, "Don't worry, if necessary, I'll protect you with my life." His words give Nefertima courage. Will, Nefertima, and the entire village gather. Will tells them the battle is imminent and that priorities and objectives have shifted. He informs them that a group called the Red Heleta has joined the extermination squad and they have a beast master with them. This beast master is extremely dangerous and previously inflicted severe injuries on many knights. Will explains to the forces that they must neutralize the beast master first, as it will greatly influence the battle's outcome. Cecily's sister notices Nefertima is tense and goes to comfort her. Nefertima pats her gently and assures her she's fine, thanking her for checking in. Everyone senses the extermination squad approaching and they all prepare for battle. We see the extermination squad in their overwhelming numbers. The squad leader tells his knights that their enemy is the kobold tribe and their leader is a lycanthrope, so they must never lower their guard. The Red Heleta group is with the extermination squad, discussing how strange this mission feels. Their leader reflects on the oddities they've encountered, like their food spoiling as soon as they entered the forest. A female adventurer in the group tells the leader she feels the presence of a hidden force trying to hinder their progress. Will and Nefertima observe the knights advance from afar as the wolves hide among the trees. They notice the extermination squad reaching the checkpoint where the plan is set to begin. Nefertima asks Shinki and Lars if they're ready to attack, thinking they need to take down as many knights as possible quickly to ensure the plan's success. The attack begins as Shinki uses spirits to create a thick fog around the knights, blinding them. At that moment, Lars launches a devastating strike. The knights falter due to the fog, allowing the kobold to quickly infiltrate, capture them, and and tie them to the trees. Will learns from the spirits that they've captured the beast master as well. Will and Nefertima go to see him but find only the master without the beast. Nefertima asks where it is. The beast is hiding among the trees and suddenly attacks them. However, Grazia quickly jumps at it, poisoning and knocking it out. She also poisons the master, putting him to sleep next to his beast. Nefertima worries he might have died, but the kobold reassures her he's only paralyzed. Nefertima feels relieved and praises Grazia, calling her amazing. At this moment, Will orders the kobold to begin the second phase of the plan. They activate traps that wreak havoc on the knights, astonishing them with the kobold's impressive trap-making skills. Some knights fall into a slime pit that disarms them, just as Nefertima had instructed. The leader of the adventurers group asks Shira, the mage, to save the knights. She uses earth magic to free them from the slime pit. Nefertima asks Soul for assistance, but he tells her he can't attack with them as it would harm her forces as well. Will then orders the kobold to engage the knights directly, leading to a fierce battle. However, the bearman from the Red Helata team eliminates many of the fighting wolves, causing significant losses and turning the situation grim. The bearman smells a human helping the kobold and informs their leader, Yoga. Yoga recalls seeing a girl during the battle and realizes he wasn't imagining it before. Someone is indeed aiding the kobold. The bearman asks Yoga what to do. Yoga orders the knights and all teams to protect the wounded and healers. He requests 5 knights from the knight commander to advance with him to the front lines. Nefertima, distressed by the losses the kobold are suffering, is consoled by Will. He tells her she must focus on the battle and understand the consequences of her choices. Even if time passes and everyone forgets, she must never forget. At this moment, Yoga orders the bearman, Lack, and the forces to retreat. He meets with the knight commander and tells him the enemy is far stronger than anticipated. He insists they withdraw now, prioritize defense, and treat the wounded quickly. The knight commander argues that they've already wiped out nearly half the kobold forces, so why retreat? Yoga replies that continuing the fight would be pointless if they lose more soldiers. The knight commander points out he doesn't see the other adventurers. The mage responds that something strange is happening and that this extermination mission might have been planned from the start. Ralph joins them mid-battle, having overheard their conversation. He tells them that withdrawing now is the best option to avoid unnecessary losses, and the rest of the Red Helata team agrees. Ralph asks the mage to create a barrier around the area. He then tells the knight commander, Yoga, and his team members they must swear on their names not to disclose what he's about to say. Everyone is surprised but swears to secrecy. Ralph thanks them and reveals that they've discovered a high likelihood that the increased monster attacks in the north are being orchestrated by an unknown organization. Everyone is shocked by this revelation. Ralph tells them they have no idea why or who is causing these problems. The knight commander asks Ralph if he means that someone forced the kobold to come here. Ralph replies that the best solution now is to withdraw, reducing the number of kobold. The bearman agrees but asks how they'll do that when a human is helping them. Ralph is puzzled and asks what he means. Yoga explains that the bearman smelled a human among the kobold and also heard a young girl's voice among them. Ralph asks if he's sure it wasn't an adventurer or a kobold. Yoga replies he's unsure, as it doesn't make sense for a young girl to be in the middle of a battlefield. Ralph responds that if there really is a human among the kobold, it forces them to make a quick decision. The knight commander adds that if the kobold aren't the only threat they're facing, the city itself might be attacked by monsters at any moment. And so, the battle ends, revealing tremendous losses and numerous deaths among the kobolds, leaving Nefertima in shock. Healers begin treating the wounded, and the kobolds weep for their fallen comrades. Nefertima blames herself for this outcome, declaring that it's all her fault due to her decisions. Will orders Shinki to prepare lightning magic and strike the knights with all his power, while instructing all the kobolds to close their eyes and cover their ears. Shinki casts his magic forcefully, devastating the knights. The kobolds flee swiftly, successfully escaping the extermination squad. Nefertima and the surviving kobolds reach Celsi and the rest of the tribe. Celsi notices their numbers have significantly dwindled due to the battle. Will informs her that 14 kobolds from his group have died, 11 are injured, and the healers have done all they could for them. We see the kobold hunters crying heavily over their leader's death. One of them blames himself, saying the leader sacrificed himself to save him and regrets not acting faster in the battle, as the leader could have still been with them. Nefertima remembers the fighter leader's words of encouragement to her. She gathers her courage and tells the kobolds to stop crying because doing so dishonors those who sacrificed their lives for the future of the kobolds. The fighter kobolds grow furious, with one of them shouting that this is all because of her and her plan. She admits it's true and takes responsibility for the losses but firmly refuses to let them tarnish the memory of the fallen now. The fighters get angrier, asking if she also doesn't want them to mourn for their parents and friends who died. Nefertima responds that she isn't saying that but wants them to stop feeling sorry for themselves, as if they were the ones who should have died and their friends should have lived. She tells them such thinking is selfish, as their fallen comrades gave their lives for the kobolds' future to see them smile in the end. She insists they must live strongly so that their sacrifices are not in vain. She declares that if they want to despise her, she's fine with it, but she will remain strong like them and risk her life to ensure everyone survives. Celsi's sister defends Nefertima, stating that she too will grow stronger to protect the tribe alongside her. Sensei agrees, saying that grief won't bring back the dead and they must make the most of the future their fallen comrades paved for them. She tells them that she was the one who brought Nefertima to them, so if they have any issues, they should confront her instead. She pledges her loyalty to Nefertima, asking her to lead them toward peace and affirming that the stars still say she is their savior. Nefertima asks Sensei if she is certain of her confidence in her. Sensei replies that they've overcome many obstacles through the guidance of the stars, and now the stars instruct them to follow the path Nefertima has chosen. Nefertima says the path ahead seems treacherous and arduous, to which Sensei responds with her unwavering trust in her and the stars' message. Nefertima turns to all the kobolds, asking if they accept her. All the kobolds acknowledge her leadership and agree to follow her. Hanley, the healer leader, encourages the kobolds, assuring them that no one escapes death, and their fallen friends met their fate when their time had come. Everyone agrees to follow Nefertima as their leader, applauding her. They later discuss where to go next and decide to send the kobolds to Letime Mountain, located on the western borders. Finally, Nefertima and will prepare to return to the city. Sensei approaches Nefertima and mentions that her younger sister wants to stay with her forever, though she's still weak. Nefertima tells her that as a noble's daughter, she'll have to live among humans and must learn proper etiquette. The younger sister gets excited and promises to do her best. Sensei asks Nefertima to give her sister a name. Nefertima is surprised, asking why it should be her. Hanley had told her that the tribe leader names its members. Sensei explains that since her sister is a beast-human hybrid and not an ordinary beast, her name should be tied to Nefertima. The younger sister also requests a name from her. Nefertima agrees and names her Spica. At this moment, two young pups arrive, asking Nefertima to name them too. She names them Seago and Rexy. The pups are thrilled with their new names. Just then, Will informs Nefertima they must return to the city quickly before anyone notices their absence. They bid farewell to the kobolds and head back to the city. They arrive at the castle, meeting Helran to hear his latest report. Helran informs them that he discovered some tampering in the records and invoices but still lacks solid evidence. The culprits include some knights and merchants working together. Will thanks him, saying he'll launch an investigation based on the information and request a special agent from the capital to arrest them. Nefertima wonders why Will won't arrest them himself. He explains he doesn't want to waste time here, as there's another person he needs to apprehend. At that moment, Ralph enters the room, and Nefertima is delighted to see him. Ralph checks on her, and she assures him she's fine. Ralph tells them everyone has gathered outside to celebrate their victory in the battle. We see the knights celebrating outside. Ralph tells Nefertima to avoid wandering alone and to stay close to Will. At this moment, the deputy leader of the city's lady arrives, greets them, and leaves. Nefertima instructs Shinki to keep a close watch on him and to arrest him if he attempts to flee. Ralph informs Nefertima that he'll tend to the wounded and asks her to stay with Will. Will tells Nefertima they'll go speak with the Red Heleta team. They do so, and Will thanks them for their excellent work during the extermination operation. Yuga replies that there's no need to thank them. Nefertima notices that Yuga was the one who killed the most kobolds, and she appears saddened. Lars snaps her out of it, reminding her to act as a noble's daughter and take responsibility. At that moment, the bearman greets Lars, the great sky tiger. Nefertima becomes excited upon seeing the bearman, wanting to pet him. Lars nudges her with his tail, snapping her out of it. The bearman, Lark, asks Nefertima for her name, and she introduces herself. Lark remarks that as a duke's daughter, he should address her with respect, but he's not skilled in fancy human speech, apologizing for it. Lark asks if she is the master of the great beast. She denies it, saying Will is the beast's master, and she's merely a friend of Lars. Lark is astonished that the great beast is her friend, calling her strange but doesn't mind, deciding to go eat instead. Lark asks if she'd like to join him, and she excitedly agrees. Unable to keep up with him, Lark carries her on his shoulder. She is delighted, feeling high above everyone, as Lark is massive in size. Nefertima tells Will that she'll go eat with Lark. Will reminds her of her promise to stay close to Ralph. She insists Will join her instead. Will invites the whole team, and they all go with Lark and Nefertima. The team notices how unusual it is that a child isn't afraid of Lark and actually wants to stay with him. Later, Nefertima asks Lark if she can touch his ear. Lark agrees, and she removes her glove to feel it, delighted by its texture. Lark observes her happiness and comments on how unlike other nobles she is, calling her wonderful. At that moment, Karna arrives, rushing to embrace her sister Nefertima so tightly that it nearly suffocates her. Ralph scolds Karna to let her go. Karna apologizes and releases her, asking her to tell her everything she did while she was away. Everyone sits down to eat, enjoying their time together, and thus the adventure comes to an end. Later, Nefertima returns home, resting in her room. Sol visits her, calling her out, and takes her on a journey north to witness the vast world around her. Nefertima flies with Sol, her heart soaring with joy at the sights she beholds.